So first of all, thank you for doing the interview. I've been excited to talk to you about the music, about the band. Um, so why don't you go ahead first of all and just introduce yourself and talk about the band a little bit.
Well, replying to you, thank you, Steve. My name is Avienne Q2. I am the lead singer of Vintersea. We just released our newest album. It's called Illuminated. So glad to be here. Glad to talk about the music. It's one of my favorite things. Besides, I'm sorry, I get excited about things. um, but yes, like one of my favorite things besides actually playing the music and writing the music is talking about it. So I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me, Steve. And I'm glad that thanks for having one of these guys too.
All right. Vintersea, I guess tell me when you got started and kind of how the band came together a little bit.
Oh, it depends on how way back you want to go. So with the band, the guitarist Riley Nix and Jeremy Spencer, the drummer, they've been making music since they were in high school. So they've been doing the things, playing the stuff, and a few years later, I moved from Malaysia to Oregon to go to school. And when I first got here, I'm like, okay, now I'm here. Of course, I'm going to school, but I know there's some metal shows, and I kind of want to go to them, and I want to like find people to go to metal shows with. And I've always had an interest in metal vocals and singing, and also doing a little screaming. So I went everywhere to find my people. Really, I was like on forums. I was on just not on the streets, back alleyways, not really, but so one of the places that I found the band on Craigslist. So I responded to their ad. They were looking for a singer, and the Jorma Spaziano, the lead guitarist, he and I both responded to the same ad. So we both joined at the same time. And a few years later, when we released our first album, Gravity of Fall, our first full length, we were doing a music video, Sky Set Ablaze, and Carl Winery, he him, and that's when it all clicked together, and he joined us as our bassist. So that's how Vintersea. A little bit of history there for you.
Very nice. Okay. Well, I don't want to put off talking about the album really any longer. Let's dive right into the new album, Illuminated, which again, I have my copy right here as well. I guess let's talk about. Yes, it actually arrived in the mail this week between.
Oh my gosh!
So
just in time.
I know. So in terms of writing songs and coming up with songs for this album compared to earlier stuff you had done, what was this process like?
So with this album, we've already been writing music for a few years now. We started out as Asterion, and we wrote an EP. That time we were still trying to find our sound and really coming together and also getting to know each other. So with our second, actually our second release, but our first full length album, Gravity of Fall, with that album, we were so happy with how everything turned out, and we really found our sound and our really tighten up our writing process. By that time we started playing more shows together, and when you go through that process, you tend to get to know each other more. You get to know the ins and outs and how everyone works, and or how everyone doesn't work. So by this album, we found our sound, and also we became a lot better friends as well. That really showed through our writing process. Because of that, and the respect that we have for each other, we were more able to communicate a lot efficiently and just better with each other. So I think that really helps when you're doing a project like that. So yeah, I think in the first couple of releases, we really found our sound and got to know each other. We took all of that and continue doing the stuff and making the music.
Great. So I'll tell you that My favorite songs on the album, I love Illuminated. That's definitely my number one. I love kind of the mix of how it goes through this journey, even within the same song. And then Crack of Light is another one that I really like on here. What about you? Do you have any favorites on here?
Well, yeah, I actually do a few. I have six favorites from this song, from this album. For those who don't know, there are six songs on this album. But one of the things you said about the song Illuminated is a journey. And that's one of the things that we love when to do when we're writing about our music. It's not just about it's showing about of course it shows emotions, it has a meaning, but always there's it's not just a smooth journey, just like life. It's not like okay, it's not just one color, it's not just one tone, that you go through ups and downs. And that's one of the things that I love about this album and each song is that each song takes you through a journey. It really takes you through a path and where you go through like crevices and you get stuck under the mud and then you get ripped out again. Um, and yeah, Illuminated was actually one of the first songs that we wrote for this album that made us really excited to write the rest of it. But I would say one of my favorite songs from this album, if I have to pick one, it would be Crack of Light, because it's just the journey of that is just so crushing, and you can really feel like the hurt and the pain that goes through that track. Plus, it's really fun to play live too because there's little chanty bits, and it's really fun to get the audience going along with that.
Well, I love just these. There are these little bits here and there in your songs. Um, I guess a quick side note: I have not always loved listening to that growl style of vocals, but lately I've been really finding bands that I like to do that, and it's because they have these extra layers in there. It's not just hitting you over the head with metal. It's the saxophone bit in the song and just a little bit. I thought there was a little bit of Spanish classical influence guitar sound in there as well. So I love that there are all these layers to your songs musically.
Yes, different layers, different colors with each technique. Like it really shows a different layer, a different tone to the song. And it's really nice to be able to do whatever that moves and drives the story and the emotion forward. Sometimes that could come in like a big blasting, like with blast beats or like growls and really evil sounding. And then sometimes you can like go to a place where it's just really beautiful and ethereal. And I think both techniques and styles, they show a different vibe. And it's really nice to be able to not be bound by one vibe, but explore where music can take you.
Yes. Um, so I guess kind of going along with the songs, you've done a couple of videos now for this album at least, and that's something that you really enjoy doing because I've got to say that these all look very professional and well done, and just they're beautiful videos. So is that something you enjoy doing?
Oh, well, I can't admit that I don't enjoy them. Uh, and thank you for complimenting our videos. That's really the big props goes to Carl Winery, our bassist, who we met when we were doing Sky Set Ablaze video. So shout out to him. He has his own music video production company. It's called Hot Car Production. So he does music videos for like it's actually pretty cool. Like he does videos for like metal bands and like there's like rap groups and no, he's awesome and we're really lucky to have him on our team. But I have to say I love doing it. Like I do love performing. That's something that I've always loved doing. I had a dance background. I danced a lot growing up. I was a cheerleader in high school. So I've always loved like being in front of people and really just like showcasing and like singing or dancing, showing that mood and just entertaining people. I mean I have to say I do love it. And I mean it helps because being the front person of the band, like you do get a few more seconds of screen time. So like I definitely enjoy it when I can take it.
Well, okay, so you have a dance background. What about any kind of vocal training you may have had? And I'm particularly interested in how you start to develop as a growler on top of that.
Oh, so even when it comes to metal, that's something that I've always done growing up. I've always been singing ever since I was a kid. Like, that's how I meet noise is, when kids are noisy, like my noise was through song. Like, actually, I started listening to like more so-called heavier stuff when I was 7, and I was because at that time back in the 90s, like there was no Bandcamp, unfortunately. So I didn't get to like scour through Bandcamp to find these really cool indie bands. Like where I got my music was MTV. So I was flipping channels and I happened to come across Linkin Park, and that's when it all started. I was like screaming along to their stuff. I love their album Hybrid Theory, and it stemmed from there where I would just sing along to my favorite singers, favorite bands in high school, actually, or secondary school, as we call it in Malaysia. I joined a choir. I did quartet singing because I just love singing and I never stopped singing. But I was actually kicked out of my choir because they thought true story, because they actually had to like talk with me because I'll be singing, and like with choirs it's like a whole like many voices coming together to sound beautiful, but like I would just like sing my heart out so much that they like took me aside and then be like, maybe we can't have you do that. We can't have like a diva in the choir. Like you're singing too loud and like but I was like, but I'm loud and proud. So that didn't work out. But in college, I sang in the ladies a cappella, and that's when I just continued doing that and picking up more. And the ladies in the a cappella group, that was from Oregon State University. They're called Divine, and they really live up to that name. I worked with such amazing singers in that group, and when you work with people that are like heaps and bounds better than you, that inevitably makes you want to try harder and work harder too. So I think I improved a little bit in that in that group because everyone else was just amazing.
And then the growling came in. How did you decide to add that into what you could do?
Yeah, so in my later teens, I started listening to more hardcore stuff. Like I love the album The Chariot and like Dillinger Escape Plan, which I actually watched live in Malaysia. And coming to the US, I knew that if the opportunity comes where like there may be like people wanting to look for a band, I may not be able to scream like in my dorm room, like do demos and stuff. So like I just dived into it and just started doing it. I think I if I were to listen to those first few recordings, I don't think I'll be able to like make it through a whole thing because it really sounds like nails on a chalkboard at that time. I mean, when you start out, that's the most important thing is to start, even if it's good or bad, is to get your feet wet. And I just started screaming and just started screaming along to my favorite songs. And after that, I started developing like my own technique and also using my background in doing a cappella vocals and just trying to be aware of what I'm doing and where like what I want to sound like.
Well, I can definitely hear that a cappella or choral influence because, like I said, anybody probably can get out there and just scream their lungs out, but to be able to scream and sound like it's still part of, I don't know, a song, like there's some musicality to the scream, I think is where one of those other levels comes in.
Yeah, but it's really fun to do, and people seem to like it.
I bet. Um, all right, so we mentioned Linkin Park and a couple of other things. What are some of your other influences? What are you listening to right now? If we looked into your music player.
Oh wow! I mean, how long do I have? It really depends because it always rotates. I would say as far as like who influences me, as far as vocals go, hands down Chris Barretto. He sang for Monuments and Ever Forthright. Definitely like one of my biggest vocal inspirations. I still like bang my head to Monuments nowadays because like it's his stuff is epic. I love his voice and he's so talented. Other bands I'm listening to right now, I'm really loving Ghost Iris. They're from Europe, and great band, great vibes, awesome voice, and I've also come across Null Positive as well. I'm not sure if you've listened to them, and they're a German band and they're amazing. Her voice is just like, I mean, it's one of those things where you see another lady and she's like doing these awesome screams and like beautiful vocals and like it's you can't help but I really respect that there's like no bounds in their music. But I love soundtracks. I listen to Lord of the Rings when I'm like studying or something. Yeah, and Hans Zimmer. Really nice background music. I love Pliny for that as well. So yeah, it really goes everywhere. Like I mean, I can like slam down to metal and then like I can listen to like some really nice like smooth soundtrack of like a movie. I love the movies. So and I especially love movies with great soundtracks.
Well, what about the rest of the band? I know that some of the things when I listen to your music, I hear like there's that, I guess the term melodic gets thrown around there a lot when you're talking about bands with screams and growls, melodic death metal, melodic metal. I feel like I hear a little bit of progressive influence in there as well. Are those are those accurate or are they just kind of coincidental?
No, I feel like it's it just happens to be what we love to play. We do have some favorites in the band. We all love Devin Townsend. One of the band's favorite bands is Neil Blevascaris. They are an Australian band, and they are described as progressive blackened death metal. And we had the pleasure of sharing the stage with them twice, and they're incredible, very powerful stuff, and also very brutal. And for those of you who don't know, it's a word that I use. It means like brutal and beautiful, where it's like crushing, but like it just like it hits you and it's like wow, that's it's crushing, but it's like awesome. Like it's the best way to feel crushed. So that's
Um,
some of the band favorites.
okay, so touring, is that something that you really enjoy, that you can't get enough of, that you're trying to do more of? Tell me kind of how that's going for you.
Out of those options is definitely something that I would love to get out and do more of. We just finished our last show of the year in Corvallis, Oregon, last weekend, and we have plans for next year to tour beyond just our state, really, because it's one thing to have people like listen to the music, but to actually experience it live is a whole different animal. I mean, that's just coming from someone that loves music and like that loves going to shows. And
Yeah.
I think it'll be awesome to not only play it to more people, but also to meet the fans as well. Like, I mean, we are really putting our blood, sweat, and tears into this album, and to have people actually resonate with it, or even tell us like it's given them strength, like that to me is so invaluable. And like it means everything, and it's really cool to meet these people as well that like can resonate with what we're resonating with. It's a cool bond.
I know that we would love to see you out here on the East Coast at some point if you kind of get a countrywide, nationwide tour happening.
Hell yeah.
Do you have, I guess, kind of a theory question here. Do you have like a dream co-headliner or a band that you would love to play some shows with?
Oh my gosh. Okay, let me
A top
think about
three,
this.
maybe?
All top three. Okay. Neil Viscaris. first of all. We love them. Of course, I mean, like our band favorites like Devin Townsend. That would be incredible. I'd love to tour with, like personally, I'd love to tour with Between the Buried and Me. I would love to tour with, let's see who else, Black Crown Initiate. Like, I mean, just some of the favorites that I just listen, like Ghost Iris and All Positive. Like, those are like Periphery as well. I mean, I have a soft spot for them. Uh, like Disentomb, that there's so many bands that I would love to tour with, but yeah, anything to when we if we ever share the stage and get on the road with any of those bands or the bands that have influenced us, I think that'll be a really special and cool things. And that's just a few that I name. Isan, another one.
Nice. So I guess keeping all of that in mind, I know that you've got a fresh album and you've just finished your last tour of the year. What are you thinking ahead to? What is in the future for Vintersea?
Oh, the future, more of this, more turbulent, beautiful waters, sailing the waters of brutality. So writing more music. I mean, I think in the nearer future, we love to get on the road and get on touring and like beyond the US. I mean, tour outside of the US. That is something that I mean, I'm from Malaysia, and like to even bring like the music to Asia, that would be a dream come true because like though that's my roots. Like that's where I grew up, and that made me who I am today. And like to actually like bring metal there, that would be awesome because like any band that like goes like the metal shows in Malaysia are crazy. So that's like a like far like dream that I would love to do like personally. It's to actually play shows there, um, in that area. So touring, writing more music, and also and getting more exposure as well. So I mean, we've really I think we've definitely gotten our name out more with this album, and we'd love to have more people like have access to this music. So to have this CD be available around the world, like that will be amazing. I mean that's something that that's one of our other next steps in dreams as well, is to get the music let it be distributed out there, like have people talk about it as well. And for all of you that are sharing, thank you so much. I mean, definitely keep on getting our name out there. That'll be like the best way for us to play at wherever you are.
You know, it's interesting you mentioned playing overseas. I've spoken to a couple other bands, and they say that the U.S. is much harder to break into with metal than it is in Europe or Asia or other places where there seem to be much more diehard fans of the genre, at least. So I find that interesting that um, you know that's somewhere that you like. They have great metal festivals too in Europe. I know that there's some really all the big bands play there. It seems.
Yeah, I think Europe they have really good platforms and really good backing to have these big festivals. Like if you look at a metal show like in Europe compared to like in the US, like look at the different stages. A lot of times in the US it's or in Europe, like they have like these huge just like platforms and these festivals where yeah, people just love and go to. I think that'll be really cool to experience one day, either like watching or performing. But yeah, that's a really interesting observation.
Well, again, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk. I think we did a nice job today. Everything seemed to go well. I am going to, again, promote the album. I have it here. I'm going to leave all the links that I can down below in this video so people can find your music and learn more about you. And hopefully we'll get some new fans that way as well. Um, Please keep me informed about the future of the band and when you're coming out my way. I want to catch a show.
Oh, of course, definitely, and definitely keep on looking on a page. That's like the best and wait to get like any of the news. Social media.
Love social media.
Yeah,
All
it's good stuff. I totally was.
right. Thanks again, everybody. Again, check out the music down below, and thank you for stopping by today.
Thank you, Steve. Cheers.